Hey, what's up? Welcome to Dallas Fantasy Sports Club. Hey, where everything is fantasy sports. I wanted to talk about what we're going to be discussing in week one. This is a two-part video. Week one is going to be all about defense. All we're talking about and focusing on is defense. My opinion is defense is most of the time underrated, but I think it's the most important part. When I've won playing on FanDuel or DraftKings or any other site, checking my history, which is important, I've found that what separated me from winning and losing a couple of points, and it was just mainly on defense, special teams. So that's why I would like to start. A couple other things I'd like to mention before I start on defense is Denver kickers. I mean, hey, they kicking Brandon McManus. He's kicking 70-yard field goals, setting NFL records. So, I mean, that's something you might want to keep an eye on. Denver, high scoring, kickers kicking 70-yard in preseason. The backup kicker, he's kicking 65 yarders. So that's something you want to keep in mind. That means Denver, they're going to give him a go, I'm pretty sure, in a regular season game. Brandon McManus, you could be looking at 50-yard field goal attempts. So as far as picking kickers, I know it's important on FanDuel, not so much on DraftKings, but kickers. Brandon McManus, probably want to keep a target on him. A couple of quarterbacks that come to mind as well. Tony Romo. I mean, last year was a breakout year for him. They limited his throwing attempts, but he had 70% completions. He led the league in completions. He also led the league in fewest amounts of turnovers. Another person I want to keep an eye on is Eli Manning. Eli Manning is in a contract year. I know everybody saw the news where he's wanting the biggest contract ever. So they'll let him play through this year, but you can expect Eli to get a whole lot better. I mean, if you want a big contract, you definitely got to go out there and prove it. So look for Eli Manning, keep an eye on him. LaShawn McCoy in the Philadelphia fast-paced offense. That's something I keep an eye on. He's injured. He's got a hamstring injury early in the preseason, and usually during this time of year, hamstring injuries they tend to prolong. You'll see flare-ups throughout the year, so kind of want to keep an eye on that too, because you don't want to be stuck with LaShawn McCoy and he gets injured during a game that costs you 0. So I keep an eye on it. I would maybe kind of try to avoid him a little bit. I mean, also he's down there with Buffalo Bills and Rex Ryan. I mean, just his history with teams and offense and defense. I mean, you gotta have a good offense. The best defense is a good offense. So keep an eye on LaShawn McCoy with Rex Ryan down there, because he's kind of a live wire and he shakes things up. And if the team is not having good chemistry, I would keep an eye on that, especially for the defensive side as well. The Jets were pretty good on defense last year, but it was the offense, Geno Smith's turnovers and all those things that eventually cost them. So if Rex gets down there with the offense in Buffalo and he kind of shakes things up, then you want to keep an eye out for that as well. The next thing I want to talk about is Eagles, the Philadelphia Eagles special teams. They got the rookie out of Oregon, Kenyon Barnes. He ran that touchdown back, and he looks healthy. He's young, and just the Eagles special teams, which counts as defense as well, DST on FanDuel and on DraftKings. That's the way you can pick up some extra points, even though kick returns are rare. I mean, you can see somebody like the Philadelphia Eagles with their fast-paced offense and the special teams just getting you a couple of extra points. So that's something you can watch as far as Philadelphia picking up extra points on special teams with that new Kenyon Barnes. I mean, he ran a 92-yard punt return or something like that back. And the thing that you really want to focus on when you're looking for your defenses or your offenses or your quarterbacks, what's going to separate you from winning and losing is finding value where other people don't see value. Yeah, you know the top players. I mean, just looking over the defense. You can look at it now. Let's check FanDuel. Go to the top. Seahawks, 5,000. Good. I mean, that's at the top of the price. But you can see that that paying 5,000 is not going to be you finding value. That's just you getting what you pay for. So you're breaking even. You're not finding value, and anytime you're not finding value in the position, it's going to cost you somewhere along the line. What separates the winners from the losers is just finding value where others don't want to look for value or search for value. So going with Seattle, yeah, they're the best. I mean, they had a lot of changes this year. They lost a couple of cornerbacks. The defensive line has changed. I don't know how it's going to affect them so much this year, but paying 5,000 at the top of the salary on defense, I would definitely go against that, just because you know that that they're. I mean, you don't know what they're going to do yet. And week one, Seattle's playing St. Louis. So that's two great defenses from last year going up against each other. So that's going to be a hard game to predict. But the name of the game is finding value where your opponents, which will be whoever you're playing against in contest, whether it's head-to-head, tournament, or double ups, is finding value. You go over here to DraftKings on the right, and you can see the Seahawks at 3,400 as well. I mean, that's at the top. That's at the top. There's no value in that. In going with the Seahawks, starting off your defense with spending all that money on just the Seahawks. When you're at the top of the budget, most of the time, the defense that you expect, they don't do what they're supposed to do. And been playing Seattle with Nick Foles down there. St. Louis tends to stick more with a slower paced game. They tend to stick with the running, ground and pound. So that's something you might want to avoid, because if the quarterback's not throwing a lot, there's no turnovers, nothing for the defense to get. But the name of the game is finding value. So defense, when you're picking defenses, the main thing you want to look up is matchup. You want to see what quarterback they're up against. Nick Foles and a new offense, new coach. Against Seattle, if you can find the value there, that's something you want to keep an eye on. Front seven pass rush. You want to look at the defensive line, how many sacks they get in. That's the most easy and predictable things is sacks per game. I mean, if they're averaging a certain amount of sacks, then they're going to be around that number, as long as the core of the defense is the same on the front line rushing. So that's something you want to look for. You want to look for injuries. If any of the defensive line is injured, they move positions, so that'll change the chemistry if they got to start somebody else who doesn't start. You want to look at rookies to veteran ratio. How many players are returning veterans? Veterans tend to have chemistry with each other. They know the system. They know the fundamentals. They tend to know their teammates, and they tend to function well. So if it's a lot of returning veterans, then that's something you want to keep an eye on. You want to look for value, but don't go too cheap. Basically, the cheapest on DraftKings is the Raiders, 2,300, ranked 15th. Is that a value against Cincinnati? Well, they playing Carson. I'm not sorry. They're playing that red-headed guy, Andy something. I can't think of his name right now. Slipping my mind. But check out part 2 of the video. and we can talk about some other topics. So thanks for tuning in. Subscribe, join.